You can see it's a disused canal. Right next to it, there's a small village here, which is Khokrana. And the new canal over here was actually built during the British era, around 1817. And this is the canal which is usually mistaken for the old Mughal canal. And this canal is very close to the city of Panipat, which is just across the canal on the other side. This distance comes to about 7 kilometers when you measure it on the Wikimapia. And this was a space around which Abdali had the opportunity to go around the Maratha camp and patrol the area to see what was happening in the camp and outside it. After going to Panipat, I therefore told my driver to take me on the Asand road, and I actually saw this canal where some seepage of water is taking place from another canal, and therefore some weeds are growing over it. But this canal still exists. You can trace it on Google Maps upstream into the old canal, and downstream it just disappears towards Delhi. After visiting this place, there are other places in Panipat that I had to visit. And this picture gives a topography of the whole Panipat town and surrounding villages, because this is the place where all the battles were fought. And you can see that Ugrakheri, which is supposed to be the place where the main battle of Panipat was fought, is somewhere here. Chhajpur Khurd was the place where Ibrahim Khan Gardi attacked the Rohilas. And the Yamuna river, from where the Marathas were planning to go, they were being stopped by Afghan army ranged from Siva right up to Chhajpur Khurd, while the Marathas were marching in a square trying to go towards the Yamuna. So these were important towns, and you can see the Shahanehar here, 7 kilometers on this side. The Yamuna is about 16 kilometers on the other side. Also a small river here in between. It's called a Nadi, but it's not really a named river. It's just called a Nadi. It's a kind of a rivulet. This place where these boys are playing cricket is near the village of Ugrakhedi, and possibly this was one of the places where the battle was fought. It is still an open place. It is just short of the Kalam Memorial, which has been built later on. And below you can see the village of Chhajpur Khurd, which is a small village. No, it's not like Pune as yet, congested and polluted. The Buali Kalandar Dargah, this is in the heart of Panipat. This was a place, this has not changed for the last 200 years, as you can see from the photo, from the painting below. This painting is about 200 years back. And this was the place where Ahmad Shah Abdali came and prayed the day after he won the battle of Panipat. Similarly, Nadir Shah, he also came and prayed over here. So this is a very old shrine, and it is respected by people from all communities in the town of Panipat. And I just thought I'll show these. This photograph on the left above is from the fort. It's actually, the fort has given way to a garden on top, but it's a small eminence in the center of Panipat, from where if you look to the south and the east, you can actually see where the old battleground was. And below is the Devi temple, which is again very old, about 200 years old at Panipat. This is a very old photograph, a painting actually, which is from the British Library. It was painted in 1771, just 10 years after Panipat. And it was painted in the Faizapur style. And you can clearly identify many of the characters who were in the battle and the formation of the battle. At the side, this side is the Afghans, on this side are the Marathas. This is the town of Panipat at the base here. The one on the brown horse is Ahmad Shah Abdali. You can see the big ditch or the khandak which had been dug by the Marathas to protect their camp. These are the cannons on both sides by both the parties. You can see here this is Shujaud Dawla of Aud, who was on the left of Ahmad Shah Abdali. Below here is Najib Khan Rohila of Saharanpur and Najibabad. On this side you can see the town of Panipat, and above this, on this horse, is, of course, this is a partly not exactly a true to life painting. So what they have shown here is Babasaheb injured and being helped off his horse. You can see that the Marathas have formed a square over here, because that was a formation of battle that they were fighting that day on the advice of Ibrahim Khan Gardi. And you can see the crescentic formation of the Afghan troops, who had formed a crescent. It was a much larger army, 60,000 to 45,000 Marathas. And they had formed a large crescent here, which this square was trying to break through and head towards the Yamuna somewhere there. So this is a very graphic. If you can enlarge, unfortunately I can't enlarge it any further, but if you could, you can see on the library website that there are a lot of heads cut off lying here and there on all over the metal place. Elephants dead, and all kinds of things, atrocities being done on the people of Panipat. So it's a very historical and very graphic presentation of the battle as it took place that day. The British, there was a tree at this place which got the epithet Kala Amb. It is said that Sadashiva Bhau had pitched his tent under this tree and he guided the battle from this point. And the bloodshed in the battle was so much that the tree became black in color and got the name Kala Am. This tree survived till 1906. When it died in 1906, there was a local person who used that wood and made a beautifully carved arch out of it. And that arch you can today see even in the Panipat Museum. The British after 1906 erected a small memorial here, which till 50 years back was surrounded by sugarcane fields. And it's only after that you find these beautiful lawns which have been made here, because it is almost a national memorial actually, because that was the first time where an Indian army was trying to evict a foreign invader into our country. In the Panipat Museum, this is the wooden arch which is carved here. It was in fact carved by that person and gifted to Queen Victoria. And it was kept in the Karnal Museum, from where they later on shifted it and brought it to Panipat Museum. And there you can see it today. The next most exciting place was Kunjpura. The last battle which the Marathas won before Panipat was Kunjpura. Kunjpura was a fort about 45 kilometers north of Panipat, along the Yamuna, on the western bank of the Yamuna. And this was a place which was a staging post for Ahmad Shah Abdali, where he kept his reserves, he kept his stores, he kept his money. On the way back to his country or coming here, he could use that place. It was built by a man called Najabat Khan, and Jadunath Sarkar in his book also calls it the robber's den, because he says that Najabat Khan used to dress up his soldiers as Abdali soldiers and go and steal from people who were passing by in that area. The point of interest was that when Sadashiva Bhau came there along with Ibrahim Khan Gardi's artillery, that was the first time that the Marathas got a practical display, I would say, of what the artillery can achieve. And within one day, the fort was totally taken over, and Abdali's soldiers were across the flooded Yamuna, and they could not really come to his help because of the high water in the Yamuna. And within a day, the fort was conquered. They got tremendous amount of wealth, lots of horses, lots of food, and that was on the day of Dashera in 1760. And the Marathas celebrate Dashera in Kunjpura in great style. The point of interest about Kunjpura was that in all the literature, all the books that I searched, I never found a photograph of the fort of Kunjpura. In the beginning, I thought that this fort has been demolished and nothing remains there. And possibly that is why nobody has taken a photograph of it. Sitting in Pune, before I went to Panipat, I found some ingenious ways. I said, let me find out whether there really is a fort in Kunjpura before I go all the way 45 kilometers ahead of Panipat. So I dug out the BSNL telephone directory on the internet and checked out that there is a Sainik school at Kunjpura. So I rang up the registrar there and I asked him that, is there a fort somewhere in Kunjpura village? So he said, we are actually outside Kunjpura. I really don't know whether there is a fort there. So then I again started looking at other numbers in Kunjpura and I found a shopkeeper, Mr. Gupta. So I just rang him up and I told him I'm calling from Pune. I'm sure he was surprised. And I told him that I'm just trying to find out whether a fort exists in Kunjpura, because I plan to come there to visit it. So he said, ek eat bhi nahi bachi. That really, my heart sank after that. I said that I'm planning to go there, and if he's saying ek eat bhi nahi bachi, he's a person in that village, there probably nothing is left. Even then I said that I'm so close to it, let me at least go there and have a look. So I took my car, went 45 kilometers further, and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I reached there, I found a shopkeeper. I stopped there and I asked him कि भाई यहाँ पे कोई fort वगैरह है क्या? तो he said, आप बाहर तो निकलो जरा हमारे साथ बैठो चाय पियो. So I got down, sat with him in a cup of tea. My impatience was getting the better of me, but I had no option but to sit and have tea with him. So 15 minutes we chatted, we had a cup of tea. Then he said, okay, I'll take you. There are a lot of people who are here who are descendants of the people who came from Panipat. They are called road Marathas, and I would like you to meet some of them. So he rang up a few people, he called some people, and I met them. They were very happy to see me, almost like a long lost brother. They treated me like that. So another 15 minutes, 20 minutes went in that. I was looking at my watch because I had to reach somewhere else quite far away before the sun really got down. Then he said, okay, come with me on my scooter. Your car is not going to reach there, and I'll take you to see the fort. So I got onto a scooter, and through the narrow lanes of Kunjpura, this is the sleepy village of Kunjpura. And then I went there and he showed me this, which is an archway You can see it is crumbling. The bricks at the base are being eroded, probably taken away for building some other dwelling somewhere else. But this was a sight for sore eyes after the whole day's travel, and I was really happy to see that. This man was actually educated in Nagpur. He was an engineer, and he had some kind of empathy for anybody coming from Maharashtra. So that's why probably he took a little more interest in what I wanted. Then he showed me the walls which are still standing. At least one wall was standing. This is probably the rear doorway. I'm not very sure whether this was a fort or a serai next to the fort or what, because there's no way. There's no Archaeological Society of India anywhere close by. There are no boards. Nobody knows. And he told me that after the partition, everybody who came from Pakistan, they just took over this area. And they have occupied it, and they are using it for more than 60 years now. So there is nobody claiming this place. And in fact, the first Prime Minister of Pakistan was the former Nawab of Kunjpura. So he probably left all his estate here and went to Pakistan. So nobody is here who's claiming this property. You can see how the property is being used. There are some cows which are tied here. This is a shut door behind which there is a lot of khad for cows and buffaloes. And I took a photograph inside it. You can see all that hay lying there. And this is the way the walls have been built. And you can see the old arches of those serais which were there. And this is the state in which that... and I'm sure in about another 20 years' time, this will not remain, because you can see it is crumbling. There's no caretaker anywhere around. The next stop for me was Najibabad. Now, a little bit of background about Najibabad. Najib Khan, or Najib-ud-Dawla, as he was later titled, was an immigrant from Afghanistan who came and settled in the Saharanpur area and beyond the Ganga up to the Kumaon region, in the plains between the Ganga and the foothills of the Himalayas. Najib-ud-Dawla, to give the devil his due, was a very courageous, cunning person. And when it suited him, he could be very nice to the people who have captured him. And when it didn't, he could, behind their backs, carry out activities which they didn't even realize what's happening to them. In this manner, he established a small kingdom in that region. And he founded a city called Najibabad. And he built a big, massive fort called Pathargarh. If you go to Pathargarh, one side of the square wall, of the square fort, is at least about 500 meters. So 500 meters on each side, that's how the perimeter is almost 2 kilometers. That's how big the fort is. So I wanted to go and see this place, because Najibabad because Najib Khan was the man, in addition to Ahmad Shah Abdali, who refused to have any kind of treaty, any kind of negotiations with the Marathas at Panipat, and said that I will not settle for anything less but total war, and it should be a fight to the finish. So this is the first look at the gate of Najibabad. And as you can see, I could not get the whole walls in one view in spite of a wide angle lens. And a close-up of the gate here. And this is inside the main door. We can see this arches built here. There is a staircase to go up, which is probably 2-storied. This is a first-story staircase. And from the top, you can get a view of the... this is the inside of the fort, which you can see here. And this is the distal wall, the wall from the behind the fort, which you can see, with the small arch on this gateway on this side also. All the buildings here are destroyed. Actually, Pathargarh was about 20-25 years after the Battle of Panipat, attacked by the Marathas and totally destroyed. And the second generation after Najib Khan was actually a victim of Mahatji Sindhe's fight, when he kind of Ghulam Qadir was the man who was his grandson, and he was ultimately the person who was a kind of villainous chap who actually blinded the emperor at Delhi, and then the emperor sought Mahatji Shinde's help. He caught him and he finally killed him, and that his dynasty ended there. But when I found some children playing in this fort, I asked them, "तुमको पता है ये किला किसका था?" So they told me, "हाँ पता है." किसका था? The Sultana Daku, because in the 19th century, after Najib Khan's dynasty got over, this fort was actually being used by a dacoit